episode of the Chad Prather Show. I got to tell you, I never know what's going to happen from week to week, day to day. We were intending to have a very special guest with us today, but he postponed, so you're just got to put up with me today. And that's okay. You're used to that. You're used to that. So I got a couple of things I want to get off my chest with you, and specifically talk to you about what is going on in the month of June. I don't know if you've heard, this is a month for something. And I'm going to talk to you about what that month is all about. The whole month is dedicated to it. You won't believe what I'm going to tell you about the dedication of this special month, which is June. Who knew that June carried such a heavy weight? We'll get into that in a minute. I want to remind everybody, go over to watchchad.com. That's where all the fun stuff is. I've got some fun shows coming up. We're already sold out in Waxahachie, Texas, and we've got more shows coming to the DFW area, so I want you to pay attention to that. Going to be in Arlington, Texas in August with Zach Rushing, and then I've got a weekend of shows at Hyenas Comedy Club in Fort Worth, right downtown, so you're going to want to check that out. That's in December. But coming up, we're going to be in Ohio. We're going to be in Liberty Township. We're going to be over in Columbus. We're going to then go over to Belleville, Illinois, and we're going to be in Miami, not Miami, even though it's spelled that way, Miami, Oklahoma, 4 nights in a row, all those. So check it out, watchchad.com. And don't forget, next weekend with the Ragamuffins, we're going to play a little music over in Tomball, Texas, just right down the road from here. So hope you can get some tickets, come hang out with us. We're going to have some fun. So many things going on, guys. It's a crazy world we're living in. And I'd love to just kind of share all my commentary that I have and thoughts that I have in regards to the conviction when it comes to Donald Trump. I tell you, when they handed out the ruling on that case, I was on vacation. And I'd had a little tequila to drink. As you know, that tends to be my daily protocol. It keeps COVID away. Nothing can stick to my system. It just, boom, there it is. I'm a healthy for now. My liver looks like a fried steak, but either way. I was very emotional about it. CJ goes, are you upset? I said, I'm angry. Like, I'm just angry at the injustice, because here's the thing. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, that's beside the point. The fact that, as Joe Biden said, no one is above the law. That's simply not true. You know, this week, Hunter Biden is in court over gun charges, several charges, not the least of which lying on a federal application in regards to narcotics use in the purchase of a firearm, and then lying to a gun dealer while in possession of narcotics, and then lying about the use of narcotics when going out and trying to purchase a gun. Now, do you think Hunter Biden is honestly going to see any conviction? Is he going to see any time? Is he going to pay any fines? Probably not. Probably not. Joe Biden, just last month, they said that he was mentally incompetent. He was not able to stand trial. To me, that sounds like you're above the law. To me, that sounds like you're above the law. And so I'll tell you, and I could go down a whole list of stuff, whether it's, Fast and Furious with Eric Holder and Barack Obama, Bill and Hillary Clinton when it comes to Haiti, missing $4 billion. There's so many different things I could say. When are we going to hold George W. Bush and Dick Cheney accountable for war crimes in Iraq? When are we going to talk about weapons of mass destruction and the lies that were told by our politicians in order to send men and women into Iraq in Desert Storm? So, again, people are above the law. But what they did with Donald Trump, this absolute witch hunt that's been going on, it pissed me off. Like, it really got me angry, as I'm sure it did for you as well, because now they can attach the phrase convicted felon to his name, that moniker. Again, you got to remember, the left is a side that celebrated George Floyd, who was a 10-time convicted felon. And they still, the guy had 6 funerals. He had a gold casket. They're still painting murals of him. They're putting up statues to George Floyd. These guys have celebrated convicted felons for a long, long time. But when you live in a police state, when you live in a communist Marxist ideology that says we're going to persecute our political rivals, and we're going to come up with this conviction, say, oh, well, he's guilty. Well, most people can't even tell you what he's guilty of. I've had several people talk about different things. I'm like, you're not even anywhere close to this case. You have a thing where it had passed the statute of limitations. Federal government had passed on this case. State of New York picks up on it, all because he filed something, a legal charge or a legal payment, which was ultimately hush money He charged it as a campaign expense, and so you checked the wrong box. Well, I just remind everybody the Steele dossier, which was paid for by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Convention or Committee, same situation. Okay, all those were legal expenses. And they were all election interference. People say, well, the Steele dossier didn't come out until 2017. You think that thing wasn't floating around and they weren't doing it in order to be able to look back in retrospect and say, you know, this whole thing was tampered with. That's where the whole Russian collusion deal came from, and it cast doubt on the entire administration and with an attempt to try to make it something that was illegitimate. So everybody can just shut the hell up about this whole thing. I shed tears of anger. I was really pissed off because if they can do that to him, they can do it to anybody. If they can go after Alex Jones just for saying his opinions and his things that he's thinking, and they can plant moles inside of InfoWars. We'll have more on that in an upcoming episode, by the way, with a very special guest. Let me just say that. There's nothing that protects any of us. So we're just one step away. Well, we're beyond. We're out of steps at this point because what we've done is we've gotten to a place where we don't trust in any of our institutions. Our sacred institutions have been blasphemed. They've been dismantled at their very core. The Constitution has been taken away from us. The rule of law is gone. We don't trust in our court systems. We don't trust in our executive branch, our legislative branch, our judicial branch. None of those things are anything that we look at anymore and say, man, we hold these things in reverence because they're institutions that were established for our protection and to make sure that we as a free people maintain our liberty. It's gone. Gone, I tell you. It's gone. That's a mouthful I didn't intend to say, but there it is.
Hey, guys, you know what? I just filled up the truck, and guess what? Everything's still really expensive. Now, by the time you pay off your monthly bills, there's not much left, so you're going to end up swiping those credit cards. It's going to trap you in that high-interest credit card debt. Now, if you're a homeowner, American Financing can help you. That's right. Interest rates have dropped into the fives. You heard me correctly, into the fives. Now, that's much lower than your credit card interest rate. And American Financing is saving customers an average of $854 a month by using the cash in their home to pay off high interest debt. That's $10,000 a year. Now, you can make the free 10-minute call to see how much you could save. They're never going to charge you any upfront fees. If you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call American Financing, 888-675-4090. That's 888-675-4090, or visit AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLS Consumer Access.org. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 888-675-4090 for details about credit costs and terms.
What I really want to talk to you about is the weight that we carry on all of these things. I mean, we're carrying this weight on our shoulders, and sometimes you spend a little time on social media, and you see the Riris that are out there with their little comments, their little digs. No matter what you say, somebody's going to attack you. They got to make everything about Trump. Everything's got to be a presidential election attack, whatever. You can't do anything. You know, after a while, it gets old. It really gets old. I've seen some people threaten others. I've seen some threats of physical violence. I've seen some people, they really would like to trigger you. The left really would like to trigger you into doing something that they can hold you accountable for. They want to, and I'll tell you, we handled ourselves pretty well, those of us who consider ourselves conservatives on the right. I mean, we didn't go, as soon as that conviction was handed down, we didn't go out and start burning down cities or destroying buildings or completely violating communities and torching places. We didn't do that. Instead, the Trump campaign, with grassroots effort and from grassroots donations, people like you and me, raised $55 million in 24 hours. If you look at the big donations and add all those together, they raised $200 million. So we could look at this conviction and say it almost guarantees the White House in 2024 for Donald Trump. And we'll see what happens. Now, Marchand has moved that sentencing date up. Judge Marchand has moved the sentencing up to July 11th, which is a week before the Republican National Convention, where they will actually name Donald Trump as the Republican candidate. They really would like to hand out that. So for them to say that this is not a political ploy, for them to say that this is not a political tactic, or I mean, why in the hell is Robert De Niro out there campaigning for Joe Biden just across the street from the courthouse? Why are they having a Biden rally right outside the courthouse? Because it is a political ploy where you have someone who is persecuting their political rival in the United States of America, which is not united anymore. And it doesn't look like America anymore, as far as that's concerned either. when you look at all those things, you know what it is? It's easy for us to kind of get a little depressed. And that ultimately is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about depression. It's a long way to get around to that whole deal. Do you know what month it is? It's June. June is National Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Nobody talks about that. They talk about Pride Month and all that kind of stuff. But listen, as a man, I want to get into this a little bit because those of you who have followed me for any length of time, I've been very outspoken and very open about dealing with depression over the years. It's chemical, not circumstantial. So those of you who say, well, just get over it or things will get better. Well, when you're dealing with a chemical depression, as many people do, when you have that lack of serotonin in your brain or something, some of those chemical levels drop, your circumstances don't determine anything. The joy is literally sucked out of your life. I found myself just in the last week having to pull away from things like social media, pull away from engaging content and comments because I found it just kind of becoming a weight. I kind of felt, when I hit the button to go on the X app, I kind of felt my blood pressure going up a little bit. So I was like, I need to chill a little. I need to pull back from some of this stuff. And maybe some of you guys need to do that as well. Now, I posted something on Facebook this morning. And I want to read it to you because it's interesting. I can post something on Facebook and get literally, tens of thousands of reactions on a post. And the other day, I said something pretty strong in regards to Donald Trump on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, and it got 80,000 reactions. But I posted something just this morning. Now, this is a few days ago, if you're watching this, about men's mental health. And my Facebook page, which has 1.5 million followers on this particular page where I posted it organically, it got 216 reactions, only 216. Now that ought to tell you that's very it's very problematic if you ask me. The fact that certain topics become taboo. And what I said was, I'm going to read it for you word for word. I said June is Men's Mental Health Month. Here's what you may not know: depression and anxiety suck, and dudes get both. Unfortunately, men are less likely to seek help than women because we spend our lives relying on testicular fortitude. Screw the societal expectations and stigma surrounding male vulnerabilities. Screw the shame. Let's nut up and get support. Men are at a higher risk of suicide compared to women. Sometimes men simply don't see a way out and they hit the escape hatch. Job-related stress can significantly impact men's mental health. High demands, job insecurity, lack of work-life balance, and dealing with daily jackasses are common problems. Poor mental health can lead to physical health problems, including heart disease and high blood pressure. No desire for fitness, and your libido is zero. Men deal with the fear of judgment, lack of awareness about mental health resources, and reluctance to talk about their feelings. I'm at a point where I don't care if you see me cry. It's a God-given thing, and Jesus did it. So there. We don't want to live in a world without strong men, so get the help and support you need. And then in the comments, I left some suggestions with some websites of places where people can go and they can get some help. Men don't want to deal with depression. Men don't want to talk about their weakness. I get that. I've spent a lot of time in the Western world. I've spent a lot of time with some very, what's the term, alpha males, some guys that if you're going to go into a bad situation, you want them with you. And I can tell you, they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to admit that. But some of the strongest men I know are willing to talk about what they're going through. And I'm glad that we have a Men's Mental Health Month. We got a lot of mental illness that's going on in our world right now. And a lot of it, they're trying to push that mental illness as something that is supposed to be normalized and tolerated. I, for one, am not too interested in that kind of stuff. It's another day, another breaking news story that's buried. They'd rather talk about anything else than what's really going on. It's not because they don't know what's happening. The media pundits and talking heads just don't want you paying attention. The real stories, well, you have to look beyond the headlines for those. The truth is being covered up. That's why you need to prepare for what's going to come with My Patriot Supply. Since 2008, My Patriot Supply has helped millions of Americans get ready for the worst-case scenario. Today, the best-selling 3-month emergency food kits are flying off the shelves. You can get yours right now at my special website, preparewithchad.com. This food kit offers over 2,000 calories every day. Plus, with ultra-durable 4-layer packaging, it lasts up to 25 years in proper storage. So order all the kits you need for $200 off each. That's huge. Free shipping is included in that deal. Now, you've been warned about what can happen. Don't live in fear. Take back control of your future. Listen, this isn't just food, it's freedom. So I want you to stock up on these food kits at preparewithchad.com. That's preparewithchad.com. And so I do encourage people. I encourage people very much. If you're dealing with that, if you men out there are listening to the show, and I know half of our audience, you're men, and you're there's a good chance you're between 45 and 65 years of age if you're listening to this show. If it's weighing on you, talk to somebody about it. I do. I do. I talk to people. I've made videos in the past where I've said, listen, you need to talk to God. You need to talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist, talk to your spouse, talk to your family. Find that support. Talk to other men. Get out there, expose yourself as being a little bit vulnerable. It's okay. And just say, man, I'm going through some shit right now. I'm going through some shit and I want to talk about it. Now, there's a lot of people who just tell you just need to man up and get over it. Well, men get tired. I mean, people, even the most battle-hardened veterans out there are dealing with PTS, and they're dealing with suicide. The number is way higher than 22 a day for our veterans when you talk about veteran suicide. And I'll say this, 60 men worldwide commit suicide every single hour. I want you to let that sink in. 60 men commit suicide globally every 60 minutes. Every single hour. There's one a minute that's killing themselves around this world. The world needs men. In this age where masculinity and femininity both are under attack, I'm telling you, the world needs men. I'm not telling you that women don't get depressed. I'm not telling you that the world doesn't need women. God knows we do. We built a whole Real Women's Club. You can go to realwomensclub.com. We're revamping that. We're putting together all kind of women's causes because we're in support of real women. So you preach to the choir here. I love women. I want women to be women. I want women to be feminine. But we're living in a day and age where we've had chemicals thrown at us. We've had steroids put in our food. We've had everything in our meat. We've been told that meat isn't good for us. We've been told that eggs aren't good for you. All this stuff that gives you protein and boosts testosterone and your drive, all of that you've been told. That's why we've gotten our estrogen bellies. We've gotten our spare tires in the middle. And I can always tell when I'm struggling with something because I'll gain that 10, 15 pounds back. And it sucks. I've been going through one of those seasons. May was tough for me for a lot of different reasons. But we have a society out there that's taking away the things that have made us healthy for millennia of human history. And now we're believing in lies. And so you know what we've done? We've become a bunch of guys who are sitting around. I call it the bring me something phase of life. If you've ever been to one of my shows, you've heard me talk about that. Guys get to a point where we just want to sit around and we want you to bring us something. We don't care if you bring us a beer, bring us a soda, just bring me something. Bring me a sandwich, bring me a pizza. I mean, my God, we're spending a fortune on DoorDash. And we better have good batteries in the remote control because we're not getting up. We want everything wireless. We want everything convenient. We want a push-button society. We don't want to work for anything. We want everything delivered right to our feet. We want Amazon.com. We don't even want some assembly required. I found myself this week putting together a new barbecue grill, and I was like, you know why I postponed ordering that thing for so long or bringing that thing, having it shipped to my house? Is because I knew I was going to have to put the darn thing together. Finally, I was like, you know what? Be a man, put the thing together. So, but we've gotten lazy. And we've gotten lazy in many ways because mentally we're not stable. We're not strong. And we're not mentally strong because we've not addressed the pressures that people, again, you have a brain, and that brain is a delicate organ. You have chemicals that are in that brain, and those chemicals are delicate as well. And we age. I don't know if you know this or not. I mean, I know this is not a good day and age for us to be, we've thrown biology out the window. But biology still plays into this, guys. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm some kind of psychologist or a therapist or a mental health expert, but I know what I've gone through, and I know you got to get real. There's something about being genuine and authentic with your true self and say, you know what, shit's kind of hitting the fan right now, and I got to do something about it. And there are those of you who are turning me off, tuning me out, you're shaking your head, this is becoming white noise, and you know you're the one who needs to deal with some things. So do it. Those of you who know me and know me well know that I spent 12 years in ministry. In that ministry, pastoring churches, doing whatever. I'm always hesitant to use that phrase, pastoring churches, because I was not a good pastor. I was a good preacher. I was a good teacher. but I wasn't a good pastor. The reason I wasn't a good pastor is because I'm a bottom line kind of person. I'm not the guy that wants to understand your problems. I want to fix them. I'm not the guy that's going to pat your bobo and smack you on the ass and tell you that I'll be here for you next week when you want to come talk about your problems again. I want us to deal with the issues. Let's deal with the problems, get rid of them so that you become a whole person. And you know, these days, people love their victimhood and their oppression and their pain so much that they refuse to get rid of their problems because, as I've said many times, most people, if they lost their problems, they wouldn't know who they are anymore. They've identified themselves by what's been done to them, by their pain points, and by their oppression. And if they don't have it, they'll manufacture some. So when I was in the ministry, I didn't have it. And I say that again hesitantly because to me, I still feel like I'm in a ministry. Now, I don't have a shingle hanging outside of a church door office. I don't have any of that stuff. And I can be a little brazen and I can be a little abrasive and I can be a little crass. And I know that. I understand that. I live in a certain arena that for me, it sort of requires it. And I'm unapologetic about that. You come to one of my comedy shows, it ain't a church service. We're going to have fun. And the reason we do that is because we believe in real comedy and free speech, and we believe that people need to be offended a little bit and stretched. So we do those things. We have people who will walk out of there and they're like, well, that's not what I expected. Well, it's comedy, and comedy ain't preaching, and it ain't counseling, and it ain't a political rally, although we talk about all those things. So that's why unashamedly and unapologetically, I can look at you and say, listen, the stuff that I do these days, as abrasive and as pot-stirring as it may be, in a lot of ways, it's still a ministry. Because it gets people thinking and it gets people talking and it gets people wondering about how they can make their life a little bit better. I think that this podcast in a lot of ways is a ministry. And I think that our social media posts in a lot of ways are a ministry. Because again, it's something that's serving the needs of other people. I don't want you to get a religious connotation caught up in that thing. I'm not trying to say that. But it's something that says, hey, I'm serving the need of people out there. And you're doing the same thing. You say, well, I don't have the platform that you do, Chad. You don't have to have that platform. You have a platform. You have a sphere of influence. And I want you, especially you men, to be as healthy mentally as you possibly can be because that sphere of influence depends on you so much. There are people out there, regardless of what you think about yourself, there are people out there who think you hung the moon, that you created the world, that you're the glue that holds the fabric of their life together. And they're not wrong. They desperately need you, and not just physically need you, they need you mentally strong and mentally healthy, because these are mentally tough times, guys. So I want you to hang in there. I want you to do what you got to do. I was reading through, I love John Mason. Don't know what happened to John Mason. I read his books, 25 years ago, and they're all out of print now. But I've got the old, we've used a couple of times the imitation, or what is it? The enemy called average, and imitation is limitation. And here's another one that I picked up the other day and was reading back through it. The impossible is possible. These are out of print, man, and I love it. These are perfect books for men. Because the chapters are only 2 pages long, Jess. Shy's not in today. Jess is filling in for Shy. And we're just going to get rid of Shy at this point. He's gone. He's gone, Jess. So I got a beautiful lady sitting across the room who's having to listen to me talk about men and their depression. Now she gets to go home and, see Shy again and say, you need to listen to Chad's podcast because you missed out. Now you can fix him. Women want to fix men. I don't know if y'all know that or not. Before I get into the John Mason thing, can I say that? I was dealing with some stuff, and CJ walked into my house, and those of you who don't know CJ, I think all of you do. CJ's my girlfriend. She walked into the house, and she said, I need a piece of paper, and I need a Sharpie marker. And I said, well, an envelope do? And she said, no, I need a bigger piece of paper. And I said, I don't have a piece of paper right here in the kitchen. And she said, well, give me the darn envelope. So she gives me the envelope. And she wrote out a list of things. She said, these are the things that you are. And she wrote them out. And it pissed me off that she was writing these things out. She said, you're kind, you're thoughtful, you're generous, you're smart, you're talented, you're funny. She was going through all this list of stuff. And I mean, I was like, this girl's thought about this because she wrote it out really quick. I mean, she wrote this whole list of things on the back of this envelope in like 30 seconds. And I was like, damn, girl, you've been thinking about this stuff. And it pissed me off. You know why it pissed me off? Because men we don't want you to fix us. We want to just wallow in our shit. You know, we just want to hang out in our just trials and tribulations and just just grunt a little bit because we're pissed off. But women do want to fix men. That's one of the problems why women get in bad relationships, because they find a douchebag of a guy and they get in a relationship with him and they're like, you know what, I can fix him. I can make him better. He'll be great when I get done with him, but it never works out that way because guys are stubborn, man. We're like trying to chew leather. I mean, it really is. I've been around jackasses. I mean, literal jackasses. I was in Nigeria one time, and somebody brought the orphanage where we were staying. We were working around this orphanage, and we were staying there at the orphanage. And somebody donated a jackass, a donkey, to the orphanage, and so we had to get this donkey off of a truck and across the little dirt gravel area there to over into the pen. And that thing had made up its mind. It wasn't moving. It just wasn't gonna move. And we had a bunch of guys around here, and I was like, I know how to make this donkey move. And so I go over there and I was like, nope, nothing ain't working. This donkey's bound and determined. His ass ain't moving. He's a stubborn jackass. That's the way men are. You can pull them, you can push them, you can prod them, you can poke them, you can shock them, you can do all the kind of stuff you want to do. Till that man gets ready to move, he ain't moving. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. You want a man like that. You do, because it's a fine balance. If you got some beta soy, limp-wristed cuck guy behind you who just gets pushed around every time every time you powder wine or whatever, he bends over backwards to try to make you happy again. You don't want that guy in your life. That's weakness. That's beta energy, man. Beta male, as Jesse Lee Peterson would say. You don't want that in your life. You want a man in your life who's a little stubborn, who says, you know what, by God, I'm going to skin my knuckles doing this, but I'm going to figure this thing out. That's perseverance. That's endurance. Now, you don't want him so rigid that he breaks, but you know what? That's between him and God. And God's stronger than he is, because God's pretty resilient and enduring as well. God can persevere longer than he can. So rather than trying to change the guy, appreciate the fact that he is tough, but be sensitive to the fact that, he's in his own little struggles. And as you move through it, trust that God's going to change him too. I heard a story years and years ago. I was in college. One of my professors told this story. And this was when I was in seminary. And it was about a husband and wife, and the husband every Sunday morning went and played golf. And the wife took the kids and went to church, and she always wanted to go to church. And he wasn't going to go. He just wasn't going to go. And she said, she begged, she pleaded, she pushed, she prodded, she did all the stuff. She's like, could you just please go with me and the kids to church? And he said, it's my golf day. That's my day. I'm going to go play golf. And that's what he would do. And it caused a tension. It caused a rift in the marriage, in the relationship, and for obvious reasons. I mean, I know most of you out there say, why couldn't that jackass just go to church with his family? Well, he just couldn't, and he just didn't. And so the wife got it in her heart. She said, here's what I'm going to do. Every Sunday morning when he went to go play golf, she'd shined his golf shoes, she'd cleaned his golf clubs, she made sure that his bag was all put together, and she had all of his stuff laid out ready to go for him to go play golf. And she did that week after week, to the point where finally it broke him. Her serving him in that way just kind of broke him. Now, this isn't some kind of Harrison Butker speech that you guys have to get pissed off about, which, again, I have nothing but praise for Harrison Butker's speech that he gave at Benedictine College in talking about the roles of men and women, because he didn't take anything away from women, and the story I'm telling you doesn't take anything away from women either. What I'm saying is, she'd made up her mind. She said, I'm not going to try to change him. I'm just going to serve him. I'm going to give him what he feels like he needs. And God used that to break his spirit. And you know what he started doing? He started going to church with his family, because he saw that act of service on her part. She loved him that much, and God took over and did the rest. There's something about that, man. I'm telling you. I go back to the story of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15, and I'm not going to preach to you, but I will tell you this. There's something about that story of the prodigal son who went off into the far country. He was so stubborn, he took his father's inheritance and he spent it all, just wasted everything, and wound up, feeding the pigs and living in the pig slop, which was, for a young Jewish boy, was absolutely a no-no. And then he wakes up one day, And there's a verse that says he came to himself and he said, I'm going to go back home to my dad because my dad's got plenty to eat. He's got a house. He's got all these things. I'm just going to go home. And it was something that broke in his spirit. And he got up. And there's an interesting verse in that Luke 15 in that story. It says that his father saw him from a ways off and he ran. Now, as you know, the father symbolizes God the Father in that story. And the prodigal son, the wasteful son, represents you and me. And it's the only time of any imagery in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, anything, that gives the idea of God running. It says that he ran and he fell on his neck. He fell on him, he hugged him. And I took away from that when I read it years ago that the son made a step towards home and the father ran and made up the distance. He made up the distance and the difference. You know, I think if you make a direction towards where God wants you to be, God will make up the difference and he'll come running towards you. So I'm just encouraging you ladies, don't try to fix them as much as just try to pray for them, love them, be there for them. And, you know, every now and then they need a little smack upside the head. He can handle it. If he's as tough as he thinks he is, he can handle a little slap in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that euphemistically. I'm not telling you to go threaten violence. But you want a man that endures. And I want to talk to you about that. You guys out there, let me bring it back to you guys. Let me pick on y'all for a little while. And I will say, you need to serve your wives too. There's that fun little scripture in Ephesians that talks about women submit to your husbands. Right before that, if you read it, it says, submit to one another as unto the Lord. Submit to one another. So you guys, there's a place of service for you too when it comes to serving your stubborn-ass wives, your significant other. So you know what I'm saying at this point. These are those sound bites that'll be taken out of context and used against me one day, but I'm man enough to be able to handle that slap upside the head as well. It's a two-way street, folks. Winston Churchill, I love this phrase in this book. The book, as I said, is called The Impossible is Possible. Where am I at? That's this camera right here. Let's look at that one. John Mason. Winston Churchill reminded us that the nose of the bulldog is slanted backward so he can continue to breathe without letting go. You guys have all been around an English bulldog, right? You know what their face looks like. I was a Georgia bulldog, went to the University of Georgia. We know all about Ugga. We know all about Hairy Dog. We know all about Sikkim. We know all about bulldogs. I mean, they got that squish back, slanted backwards nose because they were bred to fight. And when they did that, they could grab a hold of something if they're hunting or whatever, and they don't have to let go. They chomp down. I want to talk to you about something. If you want mental health, if you want success in your life, first of all, you're not going to be successful if you're mentally unhealthy. Okay, guys? Let me speak your language for a minute. You're not going to make money. You're not going to make a lot of money. You're not going to be looked at by society or your circle of friends as being anything strong or powerful or a person of influence or somebody that should be taken seriously if you're mentally unhealthy. Nobody wants crazy people in their circle. Okay? So maybe you're dealing with the anxiety and the stress and the depression and stuff like that. So understand, when I call you crazy, we're all a little bit crazy. We're all a little bit on that spectrum, but nobody wants the real crazy person in their circle. We don't want that person on their team. Okay, that's drama. We don't need that. So you got to get healthy. You got to get your mind healthy. And one of the things I want to remind you is those of you who are wanting to quit, don't. Be like that bulldog. Hold on. You were made and created by God to hold on. Persistence. Let me tell you something. You want to be successful? This is so simple, it's stupid. If you want to be successful, you can't quit. And there's some people out there, because of where you are mentally, you want to quit. You can't be successful if you quit. I don't care how enthusiastic you are. I don't care how passionate you are. I don't care if you got up this morning and you were so excited to face the day, but you still got nothing accomplished because the first thing that slapped you in the face, the first wind of adversity that came your way, you sat down and said, you know what, I think I'm just going to scroll through Facebook. You can't be like that, guys. Listen, persistent people begin their success where everybody else quits. See, everybody has that opportunity. You chase it, you chase it, you chase it. Adversity comes. The 98% of the people out there, they hit that adversity, and that's when they stop. They're like, oh, damn, this is hard. I didn't know this was going to require this much. And so I want to go back to my default setting of just the status quo or maybe being lazy. You can't be that way. You got to be known as a person of persistence and endurance. You got to be. What is it? Hebrews 12. God, I'm getting all scriptural today. I don't know. I'm all in the Bible today, Jess. What is it? Hebrews 12 says, we're surrounded by such a great a cloud of witnesses. Let us throw off everything that hinders us and run with endurance the race that's set in front of us. That's an interesting verse, Hebrews 12:1, because it says, listen, all those that have gone before us and succeeded, they're kind of in the stands watching you run the race. And so now all these encumbering things that are hindering you, like the depression, like the anxiety, like the stress, like the work pressure, the people in your life, the homeowners association, whatever crap you're dealing with, the dues at the country club, you got to throw off all those encumbrances, those things that are weighing you down, and run with endurance. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. The race set before you, not the one your buddy's running, not the one, the guy that you went to high school's running, not their race, not the person in the lane next to you. You can't get in their lane, because if you do that and you're in the race, guess what? You step over the line, you're disqualified. There's a race set in front of you. Running with endurance, being persistent, that's a habit. Most people are in the habit of quitting. And that's what frustrates me with me. Because sometimes things get hard. I had somebody say to me the other day, Cindy, if you ever come to a live show, you've probably met Cindy. Cindy's over there. She runs a bunch of my business stuff. We can't come up with a title for Cindy because she ain't happy with none of them. She's a typical woman. She's like, don't you call me a merch girl. I've never called you a merch girl. Don't you say I'm this. She's a girl. And she runs a lot of stuff for me. She's invaluable, and I love Cindy. But Cindy asked me what so many people ask me over the years. They say, if you had to give something up that you do, what would it be? And I don't have an answer for that, because I do so many different things. Obviously, we have this show. Very thankful for this show. We've been doing this show for 9 years now, and it's some iteration of it, and it's evolved, it's grown, it's different, it's taken on a different voice. I love the growth of it, the evolution. I hate using that word, but you know what I mean. Just the adaptation that's happening is cool. The live shows I enjoy, because there's no filter, there's no algorithm, there's no screen, there's nothing that keeps me from just communicating to, from my brain to your brain using words. And we just use language, and we wrap it in humor, and we call it a comedy show, and it's fun. The music stuff, I love doing the music. I'm not a great musician, but I love music, and I'm heavily influenced by music. I believe that music and comedy are two things that transcend so many different things, and they bring us together in a lot of ways and help us find some commonality in society. I love doing the music. So I surround myself with really good musicians that make me sound good. And it's like, then I start dealing with imposter syndrome, and I'm like, I suck, everybody else is good, but who cares? We're going to ride each other's coattails and have a good time doing it. So we have fun doing that. Then we sell T-shirts. I've been doing apparel business, selling T-shirts for 30 years. I love that we can throw out something cool on a T-shirt. Prathertees.com. I love that we can throw something fun and funny, and it turns a head in the airport. Maybe it pisses somebody off, triggers somebody, or makes somebody laugh. I love when I'm walking through my grocery store down here, and I forget what shirt I'm wearing, I got a shirt that, I've got those shirts that say, I trust Dr. Seuss more than Dr. Fauci. I'll forget I'm even wearing the thing, and somebody gives me the thumbs up. I like that. It's fun. If I'm doing it, it better be fun. Because if it ain't fun, I ain't going to do it. So when people ask me, like Cindy, she said, what's your bread and butter? I said, it's all my bread and butter. I love doing all of these things. I love working with businesses, helping them promote. You guys have no idea how many businesses I try to help promote, and I've never taken a cent from them. Everybody thinks that I'm getting paid from all these guys. I'm not. I want to help you move the needle, because I believe if you are successful, I'll be successful. And if I'm not moving the needle for you, I certainly don't want to take any money from you, because the money is going to hinder the relationship and the friendship. So there's so many things that I just get a kick out of doing. I love buying people dinner. Everybody, my phone's going to ring now, Jess. Everybody's going to want to come have drinks. And you know what? It does. CJ's like, is that just like a language like a love language for you? I was like, I'm generous to a fault. And it is a fault sometimes. It is a fault, and I'm working on that. But like, I love buying people dinner. I love going and buying drinks. I love doing things for people. When the guys go on the road with me, if they're traveling with me, whether it's Party Foul Steve or Steve Helms, the Texas legend, or Bobcat Ben McPherson, any of the guys, everybody's got a nickname. You don't know this, Jess. Everybody's got a nickname. So if they're on the road with me, I don't make them shack up in, double rooms. Everybody gets their own hotel room. They're grown men. They deserve their own hotel room. If you're working with me, and you're helping me make money, you're helping me expand my sphere of influence, then by God, you should have a good night's sleep in a bed that's yours. You shouldn't have to, wait for the other guy to get out of the shower and you step over his mess before you climb in. And it's Pride Month, so God only knows what you guys might be tempted to do in the same room anyway, you bunch of weirdos. So I like doing stuff like that for people. What's my point? My point is do what you love doing, because if you love doing it, you'll be persistent and you'll be a happier, mentally happier person. Now, I get stressed out. It ain't because, and I get anxious and I get depressed. It ain't because of what I'm doing. I love the things that I'm doing. But what I have to take inventory on is when what I'm doing, when I love something and I do it and I'm doing what I love, if suddenly the joy is taken out of it, then I got to look at what's wrong, because that's when that temptation to quit comes in. And I don't want to quit. It gets me up every day, but the discipline to continue pursuing my vision is the thing that's the hardest to do. But the persistence is the only thing that's going to make you you guys are sitting out there saying, man, if I had more money, I could succeed. If I had more ability, if I had the right equipment, I could succeed. Are you kidding me? I just sat here and told you guys I'm not a good musician. Do you know how many thousands of people come to one of my music events or shows in a year's time? I got you guys duped or something. I mean, it's crazy. Why? Because you hold on. You don't need more ability. You don't need more money. I've told you guys before, there's been times when I'd sit there and I'd go, my God, I got $7.56. You people online used to tell me all the time, you're like, yeah, if I was rich like you. I can remember when I had $7.56 in my bank account on a Tuesday and I wasn't going to get paid till the following Monday. You just keep going, man. You keep pursuing. You keep enduring. You run the race that's set in front of you. Oh my gosh, equipment. This is a beautiful studio. This is if you came in here and you walked in this room and you saw the simplicity of this studio, 3 cameras. I'm pointing at. Here we go. Go walk with me, Jess. We're gonna go to camera 1, then we're gonna go to camera 2, and then we're gonna go to camera 3. And I hate all those angles because I'm a fat lump. But here's the thing. We got a light over here. We built some fake walls behind me. It's a cool spot. It's a cool spot. But you know what? I remember when I started this thing and I had a little Zoom recorder, a Tascam recorder with a couple of little microphones attached to it, sitting at my kitchen table. And every now and then I would take my cell phone and set it up at the end of the table and hit record and just give you guys like a snippet of a video while I was sitting at my kitchen table. And the audio podcast was all you could get. And you could get it once a week. I didn't have any equipment. I had a $200 Tascam recorder. That's all I had. I had a guy reach out to me just last week. He's like, man, I got something I want to say. I want to start a podcast. What do? I said, start talking. Buy yourself a little recorder, get you a Podbean account, and start talking. You do have something to say. I have people all the time say, man, I want to come on your show. I was like, you need to start your own show. Start a podcast. I'll help you. I'll promote you. Whatever you need to do. I don't know if it's going to do you any good, but I'll help you. And you'll feel good about yourself. But hey, you got something to say it. You sit around waiting on money. You wait on the right timing. You wait on the ability, the equipment. I mean, all you got to do, you want all that stuff to happen, all you got to do is start with $1 million worth of determination. You got $1 million worth of determination, and there's absolutely nothing you can't accomplish. Because there's nothing that's going to pull you off of it. It ain't what you have. It's what you do with what you have. That's what's going to make the difference. And, it takes a while to win. People, a lot of times I remember going to the news stations. I'd be in some city doing a show, and I'd go to the morning show, and they'd talk about, you were just an overnight success. You posted a video one day, and it went viral, and went all blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it just takes about 20 years to be an overnight success. And let me tell you, those can be some downtrodden, depressing, stressful days. And you got to hang in there, folks. You really do. Because the key to it is that. It really is. John says in this deal, John Mason, he says, consider the postage stamp. Its usefulness consists in its ability to stick to something until it gets there. So simple and dumb, but it's so true. There's 1 Corinthians 15. The Apostle Paul says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Your labor is not in vain in the Lord." The Apostle Peter said, "Wherefore, beloved, seeing that you look for such things, be diligent that you be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless." King Solomon in Proverbs says, "Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will serve before kings." I believe that. I believe in excellence. I believe in the pursuit of excellence. I believe in doing things right. I believe if you're going to do it, I was on the Blaze. I'm still a contributor with the Blaze. God bless the Blaze. They were so good to me for 5 years, and who knows? I still got such a relationship with them, and I value that. But we came here and we started this iteration of this show, and people from the Blaze, production people, were calling me, and they were like, "My God, the lighting looks so good. The cameras look so good. The only thing ugly in your set is you." And I was like, you know what? Because we pursued excellence. We wanted it to be right. We're still pursuing it. Sometimes the volume ain't right on this show. Sometimes we don't have some multi-million-dollar production thing coming on. But it's very freeing for us to know that what we're doing independently right here, what we're building, and the things we're putting together, and there's so many things we're putting together you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's incredible, the future of what we're going to be able to do with this show and those that are like-minded with us, and basically creating our own network. Because we're willing to change. There's no sacred cows here. We're working on a lot of things. We're pursuing excellence, but you can't get excellent without hanging in there. I've seen bands who can just get together and just start jamming, and it's like, wow, you guys, man, y'all it's so spontaneous. The music is incredible. And I had a guy one time who said to me, he said, spontaneity takes a lot of practice. You don't just wake up one day and be spontaneous. Spontaneity takes a lot of practice, a lot of discipline. It's a lot of being together, a lot of working together for a band to be able to do something like that. That's the same thing with your business. It's the same thing with your marriage. It's the same thing with raising your kids, how you're relating to people around you. You got to practice. You got to hang in there and get better at it. Pursue excellence in everything you do, man. I'm going to do this and I'm going to hush. In the Far East, there's Chinese. They plant Chinese bamboo, and Chinese bamboo is interesting because they plant it, and each year they water it and they fertilize it, just like a typical plant. First year, water, fertilize, and they don't see anything. Nothing grows. Year 2, they water it and fertilize it. They don't see anything. Nothing grows. 3rd year, water and fertilize. 4th year, water and fertilize. There's still nothing growing. In the 5th year, they water and fertilize. And guess what? In the space of 5 weeks, the Chinese bamboo grows 90 feet. 90 feet in the air. Now, the question is, did it take 5 weeks for the Chinese bamboo to grow 90 feet, or did it take 5 years? It took 5 years, because if at any point in those first 4 years they stopped watering and fertilizing, there would have been no growth in year number 5. So some of you guys are waiting on this major success to happen overnight, but you're not willing to hang in there until it comes to fruition. The prophet Isaiah said, those that trust in the Lord are going to mount up with wings like eagles. They're going to run and not grow weary. They're going to walk and not faint. There's 3 areas in life. Okay, there's the mountainous experience. That's the mounting up with wings like eagles. That's when you're soaring. That's when you're feeling good, right? I mean, you're on top of the world. You've mounted up with wings like eagles. I mean, there's nothing that can stop you here. You're up in the sky. You see everything clearly. I mean, you are an apex predator at that point. You are ready to take on the entire world. Then there's the momentous. That is the run and not grow weary. The running, that thing where you're just charging forward and you're not slowing down. That's when you're running that race, man, and you're just blowing past the obstacles. You're jumping over the hurdles. And then there's the monotonous. That's when you walk. Things, they kind of get tedious. You're in that slough of despond. You're in that deep mud. You're in the ick. You're having to pick your feet up a little bit higher to get the foot out of the goop and just the bog, and you take another step. But you're going to walk, and you're going to not grow weary, or you're not going to faint. You're not going to fall. So trust in the Lord, the one that made you, the one that created you, the one that created you with destiny and purpose, who set a race in front of you, set a path in front of you. When you do that, you're going to have those 3 phases in life. You're going to mount up with wings like eagles, mountainous. You're going to run and not grow weary, momentous. And you're going to walk and not faint, okay? That means you're not going to fall down. It may be slow going, but you got to keep taking each step. You want mental toughness? You want to get past the depression? You want to get past the anxiety? I'm telling you, get the help you need. Even if it's medication, folks, even if it's medication, but I will tell you this, the biggest thing that helps me is when I just trusted in the Lord. Now, I'm not giving you a fairy tale here. I'm not telling you do one or the other. Do them all. Do them all. But I will tell you a key to success, no matter where you are in life, is trusting in God. He made you. He created you. He knows how to fix you. You get bent out of shape, you get messed up, those chemicals get low. God does know how to fix you. He'll guide you. I was feeling sorry for myself the other day, and CJ had come over to the house, and I was, bitching about this and that, and I walked in the bedroom, sat down on the corner of my bed, just kind of feeling sorry for myself, navel gazing, just kind of dragging my head in the dirt, and CJ walked over my bedside table, and I could hear her fumbling around. I was like, oh, God, she's getting a gun. She's going to put me out of my misery here. And she walked back with my Bible, and she just sat it right there in front of me and walked out the room. Pissed me off. Pissed me off. I was like, here's a woman trying to fix me again, but she wasn't. She just pointed me back in the direction of the one who can. So, guys, Galatians chapter 6 says, don't be deceived, God's not mocked. It says, you will reap what you sow, and you're going to reap in due season if you don't grow weary in well-doing. Now, let me just say, in the Greek language, that growing weary in well-doing, that's a very interesting Greek word picture there. It's the picture of a hunter with his bow, and he's been out in the field and out in the wilderness all day long, and he hasn't seen any game, he hasn't seen any prey, and so he's despondent. He's tired of hunting because there's nothing there, there's nothing to shoot, and so he unstrings his bow and quits and goes home. So you will reap in due season, not immediately. There's consequences to the things you do. You will reap what you sow. You sow the good things. You sow those contagious attributes like the joy and the patience and the happiness to other people. And guess what? It rubs off on them just like you can catch the common cold from somebody else. There's certain attributes that are communicable. You do those things, and guess what? You're going to reap those things. You want to grow corn? Plant corn. You want to grow money? Plant money. Sow it. Where are you going to put it? Where are you going to invest it? Are you investing it in a good field? Are you going to make sure that you're putting that in the right place? Are you investing wisely? Are you spiritually investing? Because you will reap in due season if you do not grow weary in the well-doing. You won't have to unstring your bow. Some of you are ready to hang the bow up and just quit hunting. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to get whatever help you need. This is June. It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, okay? There's some great organizations out there. There's some great places. They're faith-based. Some are not faith-based. But there's some great initiatives out there that are targeting men. There may be some chemicals going on with you. There may be a testosterone issue. There may be a hormonal issue. There may be some stuff that medication will help you do. I want you to be careful with all those things. But what I want to help you do is just get some alignment again. Because anytime things are working out of order and there's no peace, is because something's not being governed properly. And so I want you to submit your life back to trust in the Lord. You're going to mount up, you're going to run, you're going to walk, but you're not going to fail if you hang in there. And there's too many guys out there that are checking out early. And I want you to stop doing that. Ah, boy, oh boy. There'll be so many things people complain about from this episode. I love it. And, here we were going to have a special guest on today. And I was left with just me and my thoughts. And that's where I'm living. This is where I'm living, folks. I'm telling you these things not because I've got a finger pointed at you and not realizing that 3 more pointing back at me. I'm telling you this because this is what I'm dealing with. There's been about 4 or 5 times as I've said the things I've said in this episode where I could have broken down and cried. But I'm a tough alpha male, and Jess is sitting over there, and she don't know me well enough to see me cry yet, okay? But I'm not afraid of it. CJ looks at me all the time. She's like, "Are you crying again?" I'm like, "That's what I do. That's what I do." Shortest verse in the Bible says Jesus wept. If Jesus can do it, I can do it. And it's an emotion that God created. You understand, guys? I want you to understand. God allows you to have certain emotions. You don't like them, especially when you're an ugly crier. I cry ugly. We all cry ugly. I don't. My mascara doesn't run all the time because I use that stuff that just really stays on. But we all ugly cry. God gave you that emotion. God gave you the emotion of grief. You read the Old Testament; it talks about being in sackcloth and ashes. That was a outward symbol of grieving on the inside. Someone died; they had a funeral remembrance celebration, and then they would wear the sackcloth and the ashes. They'd put the ashes on their head. It was a sign outwardly to the world that I'm in grief. But at some point in time, they wiped the ashes off. They didn't live the rest of their life with the ashes on their head. They took a few days, they took a season, and then they wiped the ashes off and they moved on with their life. Some of you guys don't understand that grief is okay. Grief is healthy. You should grieve. You should grieve in a healthy way, and not to the point where you victimize yourself. So it's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to get angry. Anger is not a sin. There's nothing wrong with being angry. It's the results that come from anger that can be kind of that way. The Bible says, "Be angry and sin not." You can be angry and not fall into sin. And I get people all the time. You know what? I see people get angry for the most ridiculous things. Every Sunday morning, I've made it a habit for a while now. I'll jump on Facebook and I'll share a verse of scripture. It's the verse of scripture I just happen to be reading that day. And people they think I'm trying to make some political statement or like I'm just trying to target some group of people or something like that. And the comments underneath, I don't add commentary. I just post the scripture and where you can find it. I used to post a piece of the scripture and then the context down in the comments with the place you could find it. So people would get pissed at me for not posting the whole context in the post or not giving the verse, chapter, or the book, chapter, and verse. Now I just do it all because I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to give you the context in the thing. People get pissed. How dare you? Who are you to share with us the scripture? Who are you to preach at us? Well, I'm not preaching. My old high school coach, Donal used to always say, "A bit dog always barks." What he meant by that is that old adage, you got a pack of dogs, you throw a rock in the middle of them, the one that gets hit is the one that's going to yelp. You can always tell the person that's got some conviction going on in their soul because they're the ones going to bark the loudest. When that scripture hits them, when that verse hits them, or that truth hits them, and it doesn't even have to be scripture, it can just be something you post out there. People that are getting triggered, and everybody's freaking triggered these days. The person that's getting triggered is the person that probably needs to deal with that the most. They've either got something to hide or they're manipulating their own souls spiritually and psychologically so they don't want to deal with something. So, guys, I'll just tell you, I'm going to keep doing it because if it's stirring the pot, it's stirring the pot, but I'm going to keep doing it. But people get angry at the wildest things. Now, there's some things in this world that are worth being angry at. Some injustices, the fact that we've got more slavery happening globally in the world today than any other time in human history, that children and women are being trafficked, that our country is being lost to ideologies that are not fruitful and they're not foundational to what this country was founded on, and the direction that it's taking us generationally is not going to be good. In fact, it's going to be deadly dangerous. There's a lot of things to be angry at, and that's okay. Be angry and grieve and be sad, but be able to control those things and put them in perspective. Because, see, that's the difference between meekness and weakness. Jesus talked about the meek inheriting the earth. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is power under control. A horse is meek. A trained, broken horse that someone rides, that's a powerful animal that could kill you at any time. But the meekness, the brokenness of them is what means you can get on their back or walk in a stall with them and not be afraid of them. Because while they could crush you underfoot, they've been broken and they're controllable now. I want you guys to be meek. I want you to be malleable. We talked earlier about how your wife and your spouse and your girl can't change you. But God can. But he can't do that if you're not willing to be broken a little bit. And I just truly believe as I've said so many times, that you can't be successful ultimately. You can't be mentally tough and mentally strong unless you're broken. Now, I'm not saying you need to be crushed in your spirit or anything like that, but brokenness is a powerful thing. When you develop a point where you are sensitive to what others are going through, and you do have an empathy. Now, I'll make fun of you. Don't get me wrong. I make fun of a lot of people out there, but I'll still have empathy for you. Because I believe a little ridicule, a little mocking, a little bit of bullying, if you want to use that term, it's actually good for us. It makes us tougher. It makes us stronger. It actually flips the mirror around and shows us some weakness that we don't want to take a look at. And that's tough love. And people these days are like, oh, you're just a big bully. Maybe. But the difference between an actual bully and what I'm trying to do is I actually care about you. I'll use my ridicule in love. I'll use my mocking and my humor in love. And you guys are getting caught up in these words that like ridicule and bullying. I'm telling you that when I was watching, what was I watching? I'm going to shut up. I promise, Jess. We're going to finish this thing here in a minute. I've been watching this documentary on one of the streaming deals on Tiger Woods about how Earl Woods, and Earl certainly had his flaws and, his faults and stuff like that. But Earl Woods, Tiger Woods' father, you got to admit, he created arguably one of the greatest golf legends and players of golf in the history of the game. And he set out to do that. And he did it first and foremost, not by teaching him how to swing a golf club. Because you watch that documentary, I think it's in 3 parts. And it's fascinating to watch because it's so vulnerable and it's so real about these human characters than what they've been through and what they put themselves through. Do you know, never at any time in that documentary do they ever analyze Tiger Woods' golf swing. They don't analyze how he addresses the ball, his backswing, his follow-through, how he moves his hips, his exercise regimen. They show him, doing his athletic thing from time to time, but never at any time is it a golf clinic. They don't break it down and talk about, oh, this is what Tiger did, with his short game or off the tee box. None of that stuff. They don't talk about equipment. They don't talk about the balls. They don't talk about his what shoes he was wearing. None of those things. They don't talk about if he slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. You know what they talk about? They talk about his mental toughness. They talk about what his father put him through to make him mentally tough, to make him the greatest mind, one of the greatest minds that's ever played in the game. And then how certain circumstances broke the mental toughness and almost not only ruined his career, but crushed him and ended his life. It's fascinating to me because you look at that and it's like, here's a guy who through it all endured and persevered and created his own roadblocks and stumbling blocks in a lot of ways. But his dad created so much mental toughness in him, it made him who he was. And whether you like him or not, you can't stop the fact that he's arguably the greatest that ever played. And in many ways, he would be, the numbers-wise and record-wise, he'd be the greatest ever played if he hadn't gotten in his own way. Check it out if you want to see it. It's a great lesson in humanity. But mental toughness, man, I want you guys to get it. And I'm talking to you men. I want you women to get it too, but I'm talking to you guys because guys matter. And it always drives me crazy when I address something that's directed at men specifically, and people are like, well, women do. I know they do. We don't need the asterisk. We don't need the disclaimer. You don't need to underscore and highlight it. I'm just saying more men commit suicide every year than women do. It's a problem. You want to talk about a pandemic. It's problematic, folks. So do what you got to do. Get yourself tough and trust in the Lord. WatchChad.com. That's where all the fun stuff is. You can email me. Tell me how much you hated my advice at chad@thechadprathershow.com, or you can drop your email address at thechadprathershow.com. Leave us a rating and review. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Men's Mental Health Awareness Month this June. I don't know. Maybe we all need a month of something, but I appreciate you guys. I really do. And when I say guys, I mean all of you, men and women. I appreciate this audience. You guys have been so supportive. In the upcoming days, I'm going to give you this little announcement for those of you who are hanging in there with us this far in the episode. In the upcoming days, we are beginning a new YouTube channel. We're starting a new YouTube channel, The Chad Prather Show, where we are going to be putting an episode a week on there for now. It'll probably be on Wednesday as we grow the audience there in the subscriber base. We'll launch that here in the next week with some interviews that we've done that we haven't released yet. They're great conversations, and I'm excited for you to see them. We will continue to put content on this YouTube channel where you're watching right now. We'll continue to do that for now. And then, so that'll be Tuesday and Thursday nights. Then on Wednesdays, we will have on the other channel, as people get acclimated to it and we grow that, we'll have the longer form episode on there. So lots of places to tune in. And if you are listening by way of your favorite podcast platform, I encourage you to run over to the YouTube channels and like them, subscribe to them. We need them. We've been throttled really, really bad. And hey, I'll take all the blame for it, right? The Google gods just do not like what I have to say. That's a fact. But in the meantime, hang with us. We're experiencing those growth pains, and they are good, but we're bringing you some exciting stuff. We've got a whole new network and way of engaging this show that's on the way, and I can't wait to see that released and launched. But you guys you know what you've done? You've persevered with us. You've hung in there through all the changes, and those who have, I absolutely adore you. I love you so much, and I'm thankful for you, and I want you guys to have the absolute best week you can have. And check, Sarah Gonzalez and I on Monday nights. We've been jumping on live on all the platforms. You can check us out. Usually about, around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night Central. Somewhere in that window we'll be on. But check us out. And again, take care of yourselves. Pick up some books by John Mason before they're all gone. All right? Appreciate you guys. We will talk to you next time. Until then, bye.